We humans love to complain about dating. We get impatient when a text takes too long, we hate swiping on apps, and we think the rituals of modern courtship are exhausting. But out in the wild, courtship is an absolute nightmare. Animals face the very real threat of drowning, screaming for hours into the void, and carrying biological payloads so large they crush internal organs. Today, we are looking at 5 heavyweight champions of weird romance: the blue whale, the sloth, the fruit fly, the California newt, and the kiwi. When you look closely at these 5, you quickly realize our dates are easy. In nature, reproduction is a bizarre, high-stakes tactical mission of sheer biological willpower. Let's start at the absolute top of the scale. Blue whales live for around a century, and their mating schedules are surprisingly skewed. Females are ready to breed at 5 years old, while males need at least 7 years to reach maturity. When a female enters heat, she doesn't wait. She approaches the adult males, teases them, and immediately bolts. This triggers what is known as a heat run, an hours-long, high-speed aquatic chase. The males are determined to be the last one swimming. They violently thin the competition by headbutting and slamming each other with their tails, all while the female executes sharp, rapid turns to test their agility. This diagram shows the winner's next hurdle, a 10-foot reproductive organ placed next to a compact car. To succeed, the male must precisely align this massive appendage with the female in open water, completely devoid of ground support. Once the connection is finally made, fertilization takes only a minute or 2. The female then spends the next 12 months pregnant before returning to the mating grounds to give birth to a single elephant-sized calf, often protected by a circle of males. Passing on genes as the largest creature on Earth requires an exhausting display of raw kinetic energy, followed by incredibly precarious fluid dynamics. Now let's drop the speed to 0. The arboreal sloth is famously slow, lacking the facial muscles to ever drop this permanent, slightly eerie smile. When a female enters heat, she refuses to move. Instead, she hangs in place and screams loudly. Researchers have compared the unending sound to a dying goat crying underwater. The males hear this and begin an agonizingly slow home delivery. If a male is just 1 tree away, it takes him 15 minutes to reach her. If multiple males arrive, a slow-motion, high-stakes battle begins. They clumsily swat at each other, knowing that a single slip from the branch means a long fall and total elimination from the gene pool. Oddly enough, the actual upside-down mating is the only thing a sloth does quickly, wrapping up in under a minute. The victor then aggressively guards the female to ensure no other males approach. After a pregnancy of 6 to 12 months, she climbs to a lower branch for what is essentially a bungee birth. The baby dangles by the umbilical cord until she catches it. If the newborn happens to plummet to the ground, the mother immediately abandons her slow nature to rush down and retrieve it. When an organism operates on the absolute minimum amount of energy, mating turns into a bizarre high-altitude game of slow-motion king of the hill. Scaling all the way down, we find the red-eyed fruit fly. Female fruit flies reach maturity just days after emerging from their pupa. The males take a bit longer. When ready, a male approaches with a specific love song, vibrating his wings at a precise frequency. If she accepts the tune, the male performs a background check, tasting her with his feet, detecting if she has already made it with a rival. This chart illustrates the bifurca fly. That line represents its sperm, measuring 58 millimeters, 20 times its body length. Once deposited, it unspools like yarn, creating a physical roadblock against future competitors. Manufacturing this payload is like a human male carrying 2 medium watermelons. In the microscopic world of the fruit fly, extreme anatomical overcompensation serves as a primary strategy, ensuring a single male's lineage wins the race. Back on land, we have the California newt. This highly regenerative amphibian uses a stiff, arched yoga posture to flash its bright orange belly, warning predators that its skin is highly toxic. When seasonal rains soften the earth, these slow-moving amphibians are triggered to migrate. They desperately push across up to 3 miles of terrain, a grueling track that can take 15 to 20 days. When they finally reach the breeding pools, chaos ensues. Multiple males will spot a single female and aggressively swarm her, forming a massive, writhing mating ball. The scramble for dominance is so violent that the female is frequently suffocated or drowned beneath the pile. The victor's reward is surprisingly anticlimactic. After winning the brawl, he gives her a brief hug, rubs her nose, and drops a sperm packet onto the ground for her. Following internal fertilization, the female spends a week laying her eggs onto submerged rocks and sticks. Once finished, she swims away and abandons her offspring forever. The newt's life cycle completely separates the intense, brutal physical battle of courtship from the actual, sterile mechanics of fertilization. Finally, we reach New Zealand's kiwi. It's a pear-shaped, flightless bird with incredibly short beaks, capable of sprinting up to 12 miles per hour in a forward-leaning dash. Their nocturnal courtship starts with whistles and persistent pecking. Because they lack wings and a tail for balance, the male must physically bite down on the female's back feathers just to stay mounted during the act. This X-ray diagram reveals the physiological toll on the mother. The developing egg grows so massive it physically crushes her stomach and lungs. Once laid, the relieved mother walks away, transferring the entire burden to the father. The father steps up to incubate the enormous egg. For the next 3 months, he barely moves and rarely eats, subjecting himself to a grueling starvation diet until a fully feathered chick emerges. The kiwi survival is anchored in extreme physical endurance, where the cost of a single offspring is measured in months of starvation and the literal crushing of internal organs. We've looked at oceanic marathons, agonizingly slow combat in the canopy, microscopic sperm the length of a basketball court, and starving fathers freezing in the dark. Evolution is entirely devoid of romance. It is a cold, calculated engine that only rewards successful results and raw survival. So the next time you feel a spike of anxiety about sending a simple text message to a crush, keep these animals in mind. At least your dating life doesn't involve suffocating under a pile of slippery amphibians or starving for a quarter of the year. Shout out to the Kiwi Dad for putting in the work, and thank you for joining us through the horrors of nature.